The problem that we have seen this year, sort of coal shortage and a little critical kind of a shortage during monsoon months, this is not very uncommon. It has happened in the past. Yes, it is important to see that the carbon footprint is minimized, but you can't shed away coal in the next 25, 30, 40 years. The problem that we have seen this year, sort of coal shortage and a little critical kind of a shortage during monsoon months, this is not very uncommon. It has happened in the past. What has been different this time are two factors. One factor is the increase in power consumption. Thermal power consumption became very sudden. And 5 to 6% kind of growth is what we have been seeing and what we have been managing over the last so many years. Suddenly we find a 9 to 10% kind of a growth. I mean, it is 17 to 18% over 2019 same period. So that is a little bit of a spike. That is number one. Number two, which is perhaps a bigger problem, I should have said it first, is gradually the country has been depending upon import of coal to a certain extent, to a substantial extent, not a very small extent. About 20-25% of the coal usage is imported. And that imported coal prices suddenly shot the roof. Primarily because China was depending more on imported coal. If China sneezes, the world will have fever. So that kind of a thing. So that let the prices go up the roof. And as a result, the imports that were supposed to come, there was a halt on that. But that also added to the domestic coal demand. And therefore, the demand-supply gap suddenly came up. The roots of this were laid down about 3-4 years back. See, first of all, you see, sort of a complacency has set into this. The reason being, the thermal power plants have been witnessing PLFs as low as 52, 53, 54%. They were finding it difficult even to service their debts at that kind of PLF. But they had no choice because the renewable were given a priority in offtake. Power stations were merit order dispatch. And in merit order dispatch, all kinds of interesting things can happen. I mean, an absolutely excellent top-class power station at a distance may not find its place in the merit order system just because of the transport cost. And the Indian transport costs, particularly the railway tariff, are completely out of the system. I mean, it is the highest in the world. They have continued to work at a low PLF because, they don't need that coal. I mean, coal is being pushed on them. So they don't seem to be very keen on paying for coal in time. The stock that they were supposed to maintain, they left it on Coal India. On the Coal India side again, with a 1% degrowth for 2 successive years, the coal stock went to record highs. The incremental coal stock in 2020-21 was 25 million. So in that kind of a situation, Coal India is neither in a position to enforce cash and carry, nor in a position to bring sense into the whole system. Suddenly, when a jerk comes, a complacent system takes time to sort of react. So that broadly, I think, is the reason of what happened. But fortunately, the bad period is behind us. The monsoon is over. We are into good months. And the coming 4-5 months are going to be good. If India has to develop, it has to have more power. It has to generate that power. And that is not possible without depending on coal. So coal has to be there, particularly for the base load. Now it is for the base load, but tomorrow, let us say you get storage capacity, the costs come down like anything. And solar plus storage is the cheapest. Even in that situation, how much share of the total requirement can solar meet? Even if that share increases, the power demand also increases faster. So how much share of the incremental demand can solar meet? If you ask these two questions, then I'm quite sure you will come to a conclusion that much of this will have to be borne by coal. And that's the reason coal-based power will have to continue for quite some time in this country. Yes, it is important to see that the carbon footprint is minimized. Like washing could be one, one approach. You use lesser quantity of coal, you do some technological innovation at the user's end and see that coal requirement is reduced. So, for example, the specific consumption of coal can be reduced and things like that. So, you use coal more viably in a more sustainable manner, produce coal in a more sustainable manner, move coal in a more sustainable manner. These are the things that you can definitely do. But you can't shed away coal in the next 25, 30, 40 years.